Cats, cops, and C4. Muse, stop! Stop! I repeat cognito hazard, similar to the first article. Sending images of the item now and the item in its current container. The sooner you get someone over to the station, the better. Cenk says into his communicator. Do you think there's trouble? His contact asks. If they're not out to get me, then I'll need some sessions with the counselors for paranoia. Got it, making preparations. God bless, Cenk finishes before hanging up. So there's been something similar to this veil before, Linda asks as they arrive back at the precinct. Amy was in the same vehicle as them as she refused to be parted from Cenk unless she was going back to Miss Duckett. Similar in effect, I'll need someone who's studied the notes of the wretched thing to come over and take a sniff. You don't have one to compare? There's a classification of things you're supposed to memorize all known instances of. They're destroy on-site threats. This veil is really damn close to one, and a big part of me thinks I should just stuff it down the barrel of a plasma cannon and hold the trigger down for a minute straight. What are the others? All of them are some kind of cognito hazard, meaning a mental threat. We can fight just about anything down to the ground. And if not, then we can pile onto it or hit it with enough explosives or null until it hits the ground. A mental threat, though? That's a game none of us like to play. Cenk explains as they land. There's this kind of personal mindfuckery, a living creature kind of mental screwing, and the latest has been called the hate engine. Your imagination can fill in the blanks there. What kind of living creature attacks minds? Amy asks in a horrified tone. Unnatural, tortured, and twisted ones. The Chainbreakers ran afoul of an insane cloner with imagination in the worst way, Cenk says. We need to get this thing under lock and get someone over here as soon as possible. Right. Well, we also need to get Miss Frost here some proper clothing as well. Yes, we can, Cenk begins before something niggles, and he turns around and scans the area. We're going into the precinct now. What's going... Amy begins to say before Cenk grabs her and tucks her under an arm as he rushes forward into the building, with Linda blitzing ahead of him to open the door. They dash out of sight to the side, and Cenk pauses for a bit, shifting, clearly listening even as he slowly stretches upwards, as if unfolding, and an eyebrow climbing high as he tries to make sense of what his senses are telling him. He pulls out his communicator. Deputy Barnabas, what are you doing? An officer manning the front desk asks as everyone stares at him. I'm transporting the possible cognito hazard. It's partially contained, but I need reinforcements now. There are hostile eyes on me. I repeat, hostiles inbound. Backup is... He begins to say both to the station and to his contact back on the Dauntless before he feels everything crash and he shifts away hard and makes sure Amy and Linda move with him. The wall he had been leaning against suddenly detonates and burning bits of heat send slag everywhere. That was neither plasma nor laser. It also disrupted the stealth effect enough for Linda to take aim with her shock pistol, ramp the power up to the maximum setting, and it goes from a long-range taser to a low-grade lightning gun. Her shot is good, and it highlights an angular and armored figure that has a pair of shoulder-mounted cannons that are tracking them. Surrender the artifact or beat us. It begins before suddenly staggering as something shatters the front doors and then slams into it. Everyone on alert. We have hostiles in the station. The desk girls are announcing as a siren begins to blare. Madeline is already there, but countering her is a slim, dark form of a woman with a shimmering, sharp sword she's forced to dodge even as she arrives. Maximum power shock pistol bolts are sent flying through the air, revealing that even more people are arriving into the mess, teleporting in, cloaked all along, or just breaking down the doors. There's the mech with the Maser turrets, a Horchka with massive figure and armor that's slammed into it, the black-clad swordswoman that Maylon is dealing with, a small army of face masks wearing thugs pouring in through the front door. Get the box! The head thug shouts even as a huge figure shifts through them to charge clear at Chunk. Civilians to safety! We got this! Cenk shouts as he toggles the emergency on his communicator and shifts to keep Amy and the box containing the veil away from the combatants. The Horchka makes it to him first, and with a teenager in one arm and the other holding the now obscenely crucial piece of evidence like a football, he shifts away, and thankfully, Vera arrives in full war form, and the powerlifter with super gauntlets has to deal with a giant saber-toothed tiger. His danger senses flare like they've caught fire, and Chunk moves backwards. He shifts towards the desk as the other officers are firing. Blasts of lightning over as the area he was in is now exploding. Unfortunately, the monster's shoulder cannons on the mech armor are still tracking him. "No, the prize will be mine, not Cinder's," one of the thugs suddenly says, and reveals she's very skilled compared to the others, as the cloaken woman masters her disguise abilities to appear to blink around and confuse the targeting information at point-blank range. Hammer blows rain onto the mech as Cenk continues opening the distance and swings Amy over the barricade. "Stay in cover. The last place you want to be in a shootout is the middle," he tells her before there's a sudden blast of light and an unholy bang. "Cenk," a voice states as everything rings and he squints through the strobing light to see a young boy, maybe 12, silhouetted by the pulsing flash grenade. Formal dark blue uniform. Indistinct face, seeming innocence. An exact copy of his containment box for the veil held out for him. Private Stream asks one question. "Swap you?" They swap and the boy vanishes with the prize. The flashbang ends and he fakes a stagger to pretend to be just as disoriented as everyone else. He tucks the false box to himself and glares out. "Didn't work. I still have it," he taunts them. "Come and get some." At that, the officers open up with their full power shock pistols, and a wave of lightning slams through this police station. Most of the mooks hit the ground screaming. The mech ignores it, the assassin in black dodges, the energy is absorbed into the Horchka's gauntlets, and the cloaken was clearly not where she appeared to be. The blade flashes. More a ribbon of light as Melan dances around his deadly kiss, and lands a blow just under an armpit during an overextended swing. Vera's in a power lock with the Hochka as she tries to bite down on the tusked woman with her much bigger teeth, and the powerful woman struggles to keep the jaws apart, even as she's pushed up against a wall and can feel the breath of the tiger on her face. The mech swings at the illusion of the cloaken, but it's Cenk who senses an attack and dodges away with a snap kick to retaliate. The cloaken appears as she takes his boot to her stomach. The mech reorients immediately and Cenk shifts to protect the box. The monsters go off and the box gets a nick as Cenk's clothing, which resisted the plasma with ease, melts in the macer beams. The frequency must be too different for the laser protection to transfer over. And the way a macer works by the agitation of water molecules into steam means that if he eats one of those to the chest, it's game over. The cloaken shifts, slamming into the mech and then returning to dodge a knife hand from Cenk. He shifts his grip on the box to toss it upwards, and then slam the bottom of his fist into the top of the cloaken's head before kicking her into the mech even as the turrets train on the thea-box. The impact disrupts the shots that detonate the ceiling directly above Cenk. Melan shatters the sword of her attacker with a knuckle blow to the flat of the blade that glows with power, and she grabs numerous shards out of the air to throw at her opponent, who suddenly bends and twists to avoid the blows. The gauntlets of the Horchka suddenly writhe with electricity, and Vera lets out a yelp of pain before being thrown to the side. But before the big woman can go anywhere, she's already swiping with her unsheathed claws at the woman. Bigger ordnance has arrived for the officers, and a massive ablator beam engulfs the mech and catastrophically overloads the macer cannons. Cenk catches the box even as the cloaken grabs onto it after bouncing back, and he rips her into the path of the falling debris from above, and she's forced to let go to avoid a structural beam, one that Cenk picks up one-handed and swings at the cloaken, forcing her to limbo under it to avoid being hit out of the station like a home run. The burning mech charges, and without its turrets, it brings a red-hot fist down to try and shatter the box, as Cenk is forced to abandon the pillar to fully dodge the blow. The pillar is grabbed by the mech and swung at him, causing him to crouch low enough to mentally thank the flexibility exercises that were downright required. He turns it into a spring to shoulder tackle the mech armor hard enough to send it reeling even as he is forced to elbow the cloaken away. All civilians evacuate the area. Null detonation in 10 seconds. I repeat, controlled null burst in 10 seconds. Teresa announces heavily, and the fighting grows even more insane. The mech goes into overdrive and moves with blurring speed as the cloaken's illusions suddenly become solid. Apparently they're motivated now. The Horchka is nursing a brutal series of gashes across her stomach, even as Vera stands up again after receiving a concussive blow hard enough to crack concrete to her left eye. Lan catches the shards of a sword being thrust at her neck between the palms of her hands and melts down to kick the back of her opponent's knee, who rolls with the blow, and as she moves delivers a blurring fast kick that reveals small blades springing forth from her boots. The 5-second mark is reached as Cenk bends the knee of the mech sideways and learns that it's a proxy battle drone, not an actually piloted suit of armor. It feels no pain and simply delivers a hammer blow to his ribs as it tries to grab him with the other hand so it can get at the box with the next blow. The Cloaken twists around him more like a serpent than a sauropod and grabs the box to start wrestling with him over it. He takes advantage of this to try and beat her against the uncooperative mech. The Horchka gives out a roar and swears that she'll be back before activating a device and slamming her gauntlets together. She's gone in a teleport. The assassin abandons the attack and turns to retreat as her outfit suddenly starts to exude smoke that Lan instantly identifies as Wicked Winter, and she's forced to back away less. That wretched stuff play hell with her Axiom body regulation. The mech makes a final attempt at the box and slams into Cenk's hand with an electrically covered fist. It does nothing to him, but it does slacken his grip ever so slightly to allow the Cloaken to pry it out of his fingers, and she holds it high before vanishing. The mech then goes runny at the edges as it instantly overloads something inside itself and is too hot to do anything but turn into slag even as the null hits. Everyone but Chunk drops to the ground. He looks around and no one is standing. He takes a moment to smirk. Dumbasses. He won early into the fight. The rest was window dressing to try and capture as many of these idiots as possible. But between the Hotchka teleporting, the assassin getting out of dodge, the Cloaken winning, and the mech dissolving itself, he had so many more questions. He then cracks his neck and starts moving around from remaining criminal to remaining criminal, using their own clothing, belts when he can get them, to tie them up so that when the rest of the station comes back to, they'll be able to throw these lunatics into cells as they deserve. And to think, I didn't even taunt Murphy by complaining about boredom or anything. He notes to himself in rueful humor.